Hello and welcome to tSQLt Live DevOps Edition. If you're looking to learn more about DevOps, Data Platform DevOps, or DevSecOps, you've come to the right place. In this series, I'm talking about, in this video series, about what DevOps is, why it is important, how to get started, and also some more advanced topics. So no matter where you're at in your DevOps journey, there's something for you in here. With that, let's dive right in. Today's topic is DevOps Testing Essentials number 2. And really what I'm looking at in these 3 small episodes is what types of tests do you want to include in your DevOps pipeline automatically or manually? And in the previous episode, we talked about the tests you want to include before you deploy. Today, we're going to look at the tests, the type of testing you want to execute during the deployment process. And those tests are smoke tests, responsiveness tests, configuration tests, and canary tests. So what is a smoke test? The smoke test is a small set of automated, and all 4 types of tests today are automated. Smoke tests are a small set of tests that are automated that are designed to attest that the most important functions of a system are up and running. So things like, can you log on? Can you create a new thing? Can you update a thing? The basic functionality is that up and running. Another thing you want to look out for is what I call a responsiveness test. Do those main features still work as fast as they worked before? Or is there a performance issue with one of those tests that you include in the smoke tests? And while I don't generally advocate mixing types of tests, if you're executing a smoke test through the GUI, so running some form of graphical user interface test runner, you could use that same framework to do timing as well, and then monitor those test execution times and make sure they are in line with what you would expect or what you did see before in your production application. And when I say during deployment, I'm talking about you generally, if you're doing a deployment to a test environment, you probably want to do these tests too. But what I'm talking about today is running those tests in production, which also means for your smoke tests, you need to carefully pick tests that you can execute in a production environment without inadvertently altering actual user data. So you do the smoke test, you do the responsiveness test just to make sure your application is up and generally responsive. You might want to think about including a configuration test, particularly if you're talking about a new deployment. But just make sure that in those tests that everything is as expected, including configurations that might have been changed during that deployment. The final type of test is a canary test. And the term canary test comes from, we have the phrase of a canary in the coal mine, which was a custom where miners would take down a canary, a bird, into the coal mine as a substitute for modern gas detection devices, because they did not exist at the time. This was a custom that was in use from 1911 for 75 years, so 1986. And the reason they used canaries, the birds, and not any other small animal is because the canary uses a lot of oxygen for its size. And in fact, they have some form of double breathing process where when they breathe in, they extract oxygen from the inhaled gases. And then when they breathe out, those gases get trapped in additional sacs and more oxygen is extracted. And so they are particularly sensitive to toxic gases in the environment and will be affected much quicker than other animals. That's why they picked canaries at the time. So what does that all have to do with software development? You can do something similar. So the idea is to get somebody to react to an adverse situation quickly so that you can tell that there is a problem. And the way it is usually translated into an automated deployment process is to deploy to a small subset of users first and see if everything works there or if any big problems happen there. And then once you have run it for a few days or even a few hours, then deploy it to the rest of your audience, of your user base. So it's not quite comparable to the actual cannery in a coal mine, but it is a way to quickly see if everything is as expected or if the main functionality is as expected without impacting your entire user base. Now, if something goes wrong, those few that you picked, and you should pick them randomly, will be particularly mad at you, but it is not your entire user base that suffers at this point. So depending on your deployment cycle, depending on your frequency of deployments, and depending on the size of your user base, you might think about implementing canary tests during your deployment as well. And that's all I had for you today. Thank you for showing up. If you have any comments or questions, please leave them below. If you liked what you saw and you would like to see more content like this, please subscribe. Thank you for watching and have a fabulous day.